basically the capacity of this subconscious awareness.
Right.
Back.
Exactly, Alan. And what I'm saying is here, and I want this actually ties it back to the beginning of the conversation. The vessel, which is who we are, it's really important that we understand how the vessel operates and we refine the vessel. This refinement starts with the soul, moves to opening the heart, moves to clearing and quieting the mind and understanding how the mind manipulates us to survive. All those things are really important. Then you start understanding your energy field. You start learning how to ground yourself, how to center yourself, how to be in the present moment, which is the most powerful pregnant moment you have for creativity, to be in the present moment, not to be in the past or to be in the future. So there are many, many transformational processes, but you, in a way, what I've seen is the more integral, the more holistic I am developing my vessel, the better information and the better clarity and joy and happiness I have. So it's really an integral, holistic process of awakening the mind, the soul, the body, the heart. Now, all this, while this is happening, you're creating yourself new realities. What do I mean by that? You start, and again, you're taking care of your day-to-day life, and you're starting connecting with like-minded people, there's tons of people who are into UFO and life on other planet and channeling, and I've been there, I've seen that, and all of that in a way holds validity, because if they see that, it holds validity. What I'm trying to say, those groups created...
I'm into all that stuff, actually. I love all that stuff. I also know that consciousness is key in that all.
Yes, exactly. So what I'm trying to say, as you're developing your vessel personally, individually, you start connecting with communities that support your growth. You start having conversation, you start having dialogue. And now the technology is allowing us to do it. Even if I can talk, when I studied with Ken Wilber on the science of consciousness, I studied with people from all over the world, people in Japan, in China, in Hong Kong, in India, in Europe, in the US, and we studied together and raised our consciousness. So what I'm trying to say, technology is now available for us to raise our collective consciousness. And we want to start do practices that awaken us. And you will know what really awakens you. That awakening will allow a new movement, will allow new businesses, new governments, new leaders, new educational system that will teach. Like when you send your 5-year-old kid to school, they will teach him or her at school what is energy, what is consciousness, how do you access that, when do you know when do you know you're operating from your shadow. I mean, all these things is very important to teach people, and nobody's teaching us this right now. It's like it's like a new age foo-foo thing. It's not a part of our
career. People like Lynn McTaggart, who I just actually met recently at dinner with, is writing books like The Field, which is an integration of science and consciousness.
Right.
And, like you mentioned, Ken Wilber and Bruce Lipton, and of course Deepak Chopra, who's one of my favorites. They are all individuals coming forward that, they're talking like we're talking now, and talking to a more mainstream. So I think it's slowly, integrating into a collective consciousness.
That's right.
Do you think so?
I agree with you. I agree. There's a much more collective integration right now, which is beautiful. And in my visions, when I have visions of, and I'm writing a book right now about.
I want to know what your visions are, because I think that's also a key talent of yours, is to share your vision, your visionary aspect of what you see that may not make sense to a lot of people, but I think you're seeing something coming from the future. So tell us, share that.
Yes. Some of the things. So I've been. I don't like to use the word channeling because I think it's overused. But
I don't care. I understand it.
It's fine. I mean, some people just overuse it and they use psychic and this. I mean, okay, if we want to call it this way, it's fine. But some of the vision, my way of channeling is having a sense of knowing. All of a sudden, I have a sense of knowing. Some other people, some of the audience who are listening to us right now, the way they channel is hearing things, is dreaming, is having downloads to many, many, many different ways. So in my, okay, let's call it channeling of the information,
Yes.
the last few months, what I've been seeing is, like I said, we're entering a new age. That new age requires a personal and collective awakening. And the more aware we are, the more light and information we can hold in our vessel. And the more we can start traveling through time, through space, we can start seeing different realities and different worlds that exist out there. And we're going to start creating technologies to allow us to do that. So anything that is happening right now in the world is moving toward more and more awareness. So what I'm seeing is, and in my book, I'm writing a book about conscious evolution. And in the book, I'm describing what type of educational system, what type of healthcare system.
What type of educational systems will we have that focuses on consciousness? Give us a little preview.
Okay, so educational systems are going to be much more distributed than the way they are today, which means you are not going to send your kid to school for 4 or 5 hours with a teacher that is, spending time there, and that's the only way of learning. The way we're going to learn is from tapping into the collective field. We're going to tap to the collective field through social networks, through community of interest, through like what we're doing right now. So the learning is actually expanding way more than the family unit, the school unit. It's becoming actually a collective communities of interest that you can learn anything you want, and you have access to learn anything you want at any time. Now, in addition to that, there will be in the transition time, because like I said, there is a transition time before we actually completely, there is never a completely, but before we more pervasively become a conscious species, there are going to be some fundamental educational system. And those education system will teach about energy, how energy moves, what is a collective field, what is consciousness, how do you shift consciousness, how do you move it, how do you access. So we're going to start actually learning about that capacity of nature, which actually, shamans and healer that I studied with when I traveled to Bali and the Amazon, they know how to do that. But it's going to become actually a teaching that the mass will have. The same way you learn ABC and you learn arithmetic, now you're going to start learning about the quality of the universe that has to do with energy and consciousness. So the educational system...
Tell me what society looks like in 50 years when everyone has this awareness. How do we live different than we are living now? What does that look like?
Nice. I love this question. Oh, this makes me feel so good. And I'll tell you why. No, it really makes me feel great. Because the feeling that I have in my body is a feeling, there is abundance. Meaning, did you know that if we take all the wealth in the world and distribute it among all the 6.5 billion people living on the planet, did you know that every person will have $91 million, including all... Yes, $91 million. If you distribute the wealth, people in Africa, all the kids, all the elders, everybody you see around will have...
Why don't we do that?
Okay.
Why don't we live that way? Why doesn't it become an international law?
Because, let me tell you, that's exactly why. Consciousness is a key. The governments and the system that we have right now, they're living from a fear, hoarding, guilt, anxiety mentality. They're living on a crisis risk base, which really it's an old paradigm. Now, hold on, I want to tell you something. The reason I'm saying that is when we live out of abundance, collaboration, and this is what my book is talking about. The book is seeing visions in which the wealth is redistributed in a way that you have access. You know how it is, you have access to air and water abundantly right now? You'll have access to everything you need to sustain yourself on the physical realm abundantly. This is what the future looks like in a way by 2050. But again, what I'm trying to say, it all depends on how we evolve. How quickly we evolve will determine how we're going to live and what kind of reality we're gonna create. So abundance is a key. We're not living from a fear-based society, hoarding and having money and abusing and